Live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Weatherman, we can't allow any further delay.
Well, welcome everybody to the Fox 12 Weather Podcast, episode 138. I'm Fox 12 meteorologist Katie Zuniga, and if you haven't noticed, I am flying solo today. We just didn't have a few opportunities for people to join me, so we're going to give this a go. Just me and you going on this solo today. We have lots to talk about today. You can see we're going to go over May so far. We're going to look at the holiday weekend forecast that's coming up, take a look around the region, what we're expecting. Spoiler alert, confidence is growing that we're going to have warm, sunny weather, and the chance for showers on Monday has backed off even more than when we first saw it. So likely going to see maybe a few showers, but not much there. We'll get into those details. Then we'll look ahead past that, going into June, just kind of an idea of where things look or trending toward. I have some viewer photos, and then of course we have your term of the week. So since I don't have anybody else here to introduce or talk with, let's go ahead and get things started. I'm going to pull up my screen here so I can. There we go. Okay, so to start off, we're going to take a quick look at May. This is our transition month where we're usually heading towards summer. We'll start to see some 80-degree days, although our average temperature right now is like 70, 71. We get to 72 by the end of the month. We do typically have 5 days where we see our temperatures at least reach 80. It is the 5th driest month at about 2.5 inches of rain. And you can see we've had some very, very wet Mays and some very, very dry Mays. Looking at the temperatures for May so far, about a week and a half of very warm temperatures. Seeing 2 80-degree days there. You have the 1st and the 6th, 84 and 85. And then once we hit that second full week of the month, we hit a cooler trend where we got down into our highs being in the upper 50s. That 58 is our coolest day of the month. And then we were mainly in the low 60s. That's where we have been since, let's look at that, May 11th. It's been basically the low 60s. If you're watching this, you'll see there are 2 days there that look kind of funny in white with the black letters instead of being color-coded like the rest of the month is. And we just had some almanac data issues and it didn't auto-populate like it should. So I went and found that information and filled it in there for you. But basically, with those temperatures getting to 68 yesterday, did not quite get up to 70 average, so still below average, but the warmest day we have had since Saturday the 10th at 71. The coolest day we've had, the coolest high temperature we've had this month was in the upper 50s, 58. We are looking at the last 10 years here, and the two cooler Mays were 2017 and 2022, where we were at 53. The rest of the Mays that we have all the way back are upper 50s, and only one 60-degree day in 2021. It was 61. Other than that, it's been 57, 58, or 59 for at least the last 10 years. So the 58-degree temperature we had a few days ago, pretty typical of what we've seen over the last 10 years. Warmest May days, 85 is the warmest we've been so far this month. The coolest one we have in this last 10-year spread was 2022, where it didn't get above 78. And then all of the rest are like 88, 89, 90, 91, and then one at 93. So 85, not quite lining up with where we've been over the last 10 years, but still at least in the 80s. And in our 7-day forecast, we don't have anything above about 82, 83 right now. So it doesn't look like we're going to break that at least in the next 7 days. Talking about rain, we had dry first week and a half, not a spot. And then there's one day on this chart here that's not like the other. That was Saturday, May 17th. We had almost 1.25 inches of rain that day. That's an outlier. We're going to briefly touch on what happened there and what we're looking at. But the rest of the days, the most we had other than that was on the 12th at 0.2 of an inch. We had 0.14 of an inch a couple days ago, nothing yesterday, and like 100th of an inch, I think, today. We're going to wait, obviously, to bring in those numbers for you. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and beyond into next week, except for Monday, that sprinkle chance. Okay, let's talk about that 1.25 inches that we had on Saturday. This is a look at our graph model that was put out. We took a screenshot of this. Peyton did, most likely on Saturday morning when she worked at 5 a.m. is when I looked back when this file was created. And it showed that Southwest Washington and the northern part of the coast were going to get close to 3/10, between 1/4 to 3/10 of an inch of rain. Then everything south of that was only going to get like 1/10 to maybe 2/10 of an inch, all the way down into Eugene, Florence. And then if you go all the way over to Eastern Oregon, Baker City, you see around 3/10 of an inch. So this was Saturday morning at 5 a.m. when this screenshot was made. Between that time and about 8:30, we plunged ahead with some consistent rain throughout those few hours, and that got us up to 1.25 inches of rain, bringing us now to our total to right around 1.85. So not quite 2 inches, a little more than 1.75 inches. We typically, by this time of the year, are just a little more than 1.5 inches at 1.68. So for the, going into the holiday weekend, we have more than we typically do. But we really don't have much in our forecast over the next 7 days, which we will also get into as we look ahead. So that's where we landed. That anomaly that day, that was what you call a forecast bust, because we typically look when we get into the closer time frames, longer range, we look at the Euro and we look at the GFS. And then when we start getting into those, 2, 1, 2, 3 days out, then we start looking at the graph. And then we look at the WRF GFS, and we take those that are higher resolution and they're shorter runs, but they can do a better job as we get closer in. This is the graph Saturday morning, just a few hours before that all that rain was collected. So not really, and leading up into that, didn't see me personally. I wish Mark and Camilla and Peyton were here because I could ask them on their perspective. I didn't see anything that indicated we were going to get 1.25 inches of rain on Saturday morning. So we all went into Saturday that weekend thinking it was going to be closer to this, to 1/10 of an inch to 2/10 of an inch at most. And then finally, the wettest Mays for this particular topic that we have on record, the top 5 wettest. In 1998, we had 5.5 inches. And then every, year goes down just a little. We get to the 5th top is 4.5 in 1945. So basically between the top 5, number 1 and number 5, there's an inch difference between 4.5 to 5.5. And again, on average, we get about 2.5 in May, and we're just shy of 2 inches at 1.85-ish right now for the month going into that last week. Okay, looking at your holiday weekend, if you're planning on getting out and about or just kind of want to know what's ahead, of course, it wouldn't be a Fox 12 weather podcast without getting some 500 millibar maps in there for you. I have 2 things on your screen right now. If you're just listening, we're watching a loop of the Euro model from Friday through Wednesday. And what we're seeing is some higher than high heights, pressing in, building up over the Pacific Northwest, and a trough and some low pressure, sitting offshore, but really not anything super strong over us. There is a little more up in toward Canada, but we're staying, basically just above average a little. And then if you look down in that bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you will see there's this is Monday, and I believe it's a little small for me to see, but I believe it's around 4 a.m. on Monday. You see this little wiggle, we call it, that's just kind of popping off from the main flow of the jet stream. And that's where we're seeing that possibility for the clouds to come back in a bit on Monday, temperatures to drop back down out of the 80s and maybe more the upper 70s, and then that slight chance that we have for some showers that day. But as we've been getting closer and closer to this holiday weekend, that confidence that we're going to have warmer temperatures and drier conditions, we've been trending in that direction. This is what I'm showing you right now. This is what we typically have, and we show you on air or on your news broadcast of those heights. And you can definitely see if you go from the top left, this is, Friday afternoon is about average. We're looking at, still low 70-degree temperatures top out on our Friday, depending on when you're listening to this. Then as we move into Saturday, we start to see that ridge, pushing up, much warmer for Memorial Day weekend. We get through Monday morning, and there it is at 3 a.m., that little wiggle. You can see kind of the cooler colors, the blues and greens, kind of up and down the West Coast, specifically from Northern California up into Washington. And then now we're all the way through Thursday, and we're back to seeing just some more, slightly warmer temperatures. For the metro area, your weekend planner right now, we're looking at Saturday being in the low 80s, Sunday and Monday most likely in those upper 70s, and then the clouds really starting to build in Sunday night into Monday. But of course, I want to make sure we touch on everyone here. So if you're thinking about going out to the Mount Hood area, on Saturday, we're looking at more like the mid 70s and then low 70s Sunday, and then cooler with some showers possible on Monday in the mid 60s. For Central Oregon, we have plenty of sunshine. Upper, temperatures will be in those upper 70s, low 80s Sunday, a little warmer, maybe mid 80s with a possible thunderstorm chance. I've mentioned this in a podcast before, but I forecast in Central Oregon for almost 6 years. I loved our afternoon thunderstorms when they didn't start fires, which was always a concern for us over there. But they were so beautiful and so fun to watch. And when you got into those expanses of, wider open areas, you could sit back on a hill and watch that thunderstorm roll through. So amazing. Have some great viewer photos, people being able to catch that. And then on Monday, Memorial Day, just partly cloudy, upper 70s. If you are going to be along the coast this weekend, we're looking at mostly sunny, mid 60s on Saturday, getting a bit more cloudy, low 60s Sunday, Monday, and then that drizzle chance, that slight shower chance possible on Monday. And then last but not least, Gorge area near Mount Hood, Hood River, we're looking at mid 80s on Saturday, sunny and warm, low 80s Sunday, and then windy but dry on Monday with some clouds and temperatures again in the low 80s. So that's your preview of what's going on this week. And of course, for your most updated forecast, we always recommend you get our Fox 12 weather app, because we update that in the morning and in the afternoon every single day. So it gets at least 2 updates a day. And then we also send out our weather videos. If you're, wanting a short 1-minute video throughout the day to watch, we send them out. You can get a little push alert that says, hey, we're up. And it's usually either what you need to know for the day. If you're heading out the door in the morning, that's usually what I do during the week. And then the evenings, or when thunderstorms roll in, or we have any, weather breaking news, one of us will pop on and give you a quick heads up what's going on. If we have any watches and mornings that pop up, wintertime, severe weather, snow, ice storms, wind, stuff like that. So if you want to have the most updated forecast, we recommend you pop that up. Okay, looking ahead farther. So now this Monday coming up, Memorial Day through June 6th. This is that upper level map. This is the Euro. And you'll notice, again, it's showing, the low that's offshore to our west and the high to our east. But as we get into the very ends of the month, around the 31st and going into the first week, it really levels out. We really see just a very little, height change. Everything's pretty consistent. No real cold or warm air pockets on either side of us. Very, very mild. And expecting not to see too many ups or downs, not many troughs or ridges. Everything's just kind of an easterly flow or a zonal flow, which means a little more west to east. No big ups and downs. Climate Prediction Center takes us to the 27th and shows that we should be, when you look at this map, if you're only listening, it's gray. There's a gray area that's in the upper northwest corner of Washington. That's average. And then it just creeps a little warmer. So we actually have 4 colors across Oregon, which means we're going to be, 5. That's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors across, with the just slightly above average pretty much along the Oregon coast, transitioning to a little more as you hit the Cascades, and then the warmer temperatures are off to the east. So on the west side of the Cascades, just slightly above average, and then on the east side of the Cascades, just trending a little warmer. If you look at the GFS and the Euro ensembles, you'll notice that we kind of warm up. We do a few little dips down as we go through the holiday weekend and getting into the start of, the next week. And then we level off. We get, a warm day. It's hard to see here. I think that's the 31st. And then we just level off in those mid 70s, and both the GFS and the Euro are showing that. Now that's slightly above average, where we should be about 72. So that kind of holds true to what you're seeing, kind of, cross-checking or references between us and looking at the Climate Prediction Center. As far as rain goes, pretty much the entire west side of the Cascades in Washington, and then our northwest corner is just slightly above normal for the outlook through so that's just the 16th. That should have been a little too soon. We should be to the 27th. So when we look at the ensembles for the rain for both the GFS and the Euro, you'll notice a very distinct break. So we have the showers that are potentially coming, and then no ensemble members in either the GFS or the Euro show any rain until we get to Monday. And then we do see, GFS is leaning a little more wet than the Euro, which is not normal. Usually the Euro likes to be a little more giving of the precipitation to us. Then there's another little wiggle as we get through. I need to make this a little bigger so I can see it as I'm, oopsies. I think I accidentally stopped sharing. Let me try that again. I apologize. Tried to make my screen bigger, and I ended up closing that down. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just chat with you while I open this up. Tried to make it bigger and shut my screen down. There we go. Let's try this again. There it is. Okay, I'm going to cancel that real quick though. I'm going to pull this off here and close that. This is what you get when you're all by yourself. You can't have other people talk amongst themselves while you're fixing your little boo-boo there. Let's see if I can make it. Okay, let's try this again. There it is. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? One more little step for us here. We're going to close that down. I apologize that I accidentally shut that down. I had it all set up and perfect when I started with it for you folks, and here I am wiggling around a little. Oh, there. All right. Let's get back over here. For those listening, I apologize. Okay. So there we go. That's the best I'm going to be able to do for you as we, there we go. Apologize about that. So let's get back. We're going to have to flip through this real quick. Get back down to where we were. Holiday weekend. Looks like Saturday and Sunday will be great days to get out. And then rain. There we go. So that's what we're looking at with your rain possibility. You can see that even though there's still a few ensemble members on both GFS and the Euro, that none of them are all members, kind of like we do have and a little closer toward Monday, maybe a little to no precipitation, and it breaks up and shows it trending even a little less than that once we go a little farther out. All right. Viewer photos. I love getting your viewer photos, and of course, we always love to share them both on air and then on here on our Fox 12 podcast. So here's a look at one that caught my eye, and the reason when this one caught my eye is because I felt like it looked like a Toy Story scene, like at the beginning of the movie Toy Story with those puffy white clouds. And then when I went into the file to get the information to give credit to Abigail, she said it looks like a Toy Story day. So we both were tracking with exactly what I was thinking is that looks like a Toy Story picture there. So thank you so much, Abigail, for sending us that one. This one, if you look over under Joanne's name, you can kind of see there's a double rainbow there. And I just absolutely love the double rainbows. They're so pretty. This one from Joanne, thank you so much for sending it. And then the last viewer photo I wanted to share was this one of the halo around the sun that Carol sent to us. And I love when you guys send us the pictures of the sun dogs and the halos and the moon. You see the halos around the moon. And I thought, you know what? These are so much fun. And I have nobody here to bounce any ideas off for my term of the week. I figured, you know what? Let's go with the halo of 22. Not 2022, 2020, 22 degrees is what we're looking at. So from the AMS Glossary of Meteorology, a halo in the form of a circle or portion of a circle with an angular radius of 22 degrees about a light source, so either around the sun or the moon. And that's a whole paragraph here. I'm not going to read it, so I thought it'd be more fun to kind of show you some of what it is rather than just sitting here and reading you a paragraph. So what you have, obviously, is you have the sun coming down, that light passing through just millions of tiny particles of ice up in the sky, in the atmosphere, and it's usually or likely in cirrus clouds. And so when you have the light passing through those ice crystals, it refracts or bends the light. So you get to see a little of your friend's sunlight here. So you have Riel on one side, Nora on the other, and then Andy standing right in the middle. And that crystal event light, that sends it out in a specific angle, 22 degrees from the source. So we talked about either the sun or the moon. And that's why you get a circle that size. It's not going to be any bigger. It's not going to be any smaller or farther away. You're going to get that angle of 22. Now, sometimes, 22 degrees that is, sometimes you might only get a half circle. You might not get the full circle. That will all just depend on how many of the, ice crystals are in the air. And these can often be an indication, sometimes I should say, that there's a weather change coming because cirrus clouds come out ahead of a front sometimes. So that's what you see when you get that bending of the light and around, and you get that perfect, 22 degree halo. The other thing I was going to mention is that sometimes on those halos, if you look on the inside, you'll see, and sometimes it's most times, you'll see it's actually a bit darker inside that halo. And that's because that light doesn't bend into that space. It's just very specific. And if you went through and looked at, halo pictures, anyone, I went through and there were quite a few that were sent to us, they all look almost identical. And that's, because, there's some differences you can see, but that's basically what you're looking at is the light in that very specific 22 degree radius. The other thing that I thought would be just fun to mention is that the halo, I'm back to my little thing here. It was the where it is that it's most common of all halos, the sky's darker on the inside. Sometimes you can see a little color in it, and the reddish from the inside fading into a bluish white on the outside. And it's a refraction of that light that we talked about, kind of like a prism. And then the angle is, where is it at? There's something interesting in this that I wanted to read to you. Maybe it's getting a little too long, but it's usually, you can see them any time of the year. They're more typical, or they're easier in the winter. And usually when the sun angle is low is when, they're most common. So we'll go back to that awesome picture there that we got sent in by Carol. Thank you so much for sending us that way. If you have any pictures that you want to send for us to either feature here on our Fox 12 Weather podcast, or if you want us to use them on air, we are always looking for pet photos for the dog walk, which they don't even actually have to be dogs. We featured all kinds of animals on our dog walk forecast, cats and zebras and just all kinds of fun things. So you can either do that with the Fox 12 weather app. You can do that on the Fox 12 News app. You can also do it the Fox 12 weather, or the Fox 12 internet, the webpage. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. And depending on, how you are more comfortable with submitting those photos, but we actually love to get those from you. And then the other thing I wanted to mention real quick before I sign off here is I am looking for ideas and topics to talk about for these special Fox 12 First Alert weather segments that I'm doing on Fox 12 Now. I'm starting to do them on the most days of the week that I can have something that, it's good and interesting to talk about at 11 o'clock. And we're streaming them on Fox 12 Now at 11. That's our digital station. And you can watch it from the website. You can watch it from our app. They also push it to YouTube, Facebook, X, all those places. And I just recently did a topic on seasonal or spring allergies. That was one that somebody had requested. Coming up next week on Wednesday, I'm going to be talking with a local doctor about seasonal affective disorder. And, it's something that I know a lot of folks typically deal with around here, especially in the gloomy months. And then on Thursday, I'm talking with Omzi, and we're going to be talking about the disappearing Milky Way and what time of the year and what that means. Is it actually gone, or is it just an angle of the Milky Way and the Earth's rotation? So some fun topics coming up on that. Feel free to either email or send them in fox12now@kptv.com, or you can obviously send us to it at the weather desk. So we have lots of fun ways to watch and learn and go a little more in depth than we get an opportunity to on our news broadcast. So thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you taking this solo ride, this journey with me. I'm sure everybody will be back next week, or at least enough of us where you can have some of our fun banter conversation between our awesome weather team. So hope you're going to find a fun way to enjoy the wonderful weather we have this weekend. And I look forward to hearing those ideas for you for the first alert weather segment for our Fox 12 Now special weather. So hopefully we'll hear from you soon. Have a great weekend.